I'm Victoria Reed, 38, the proud founder of InnovateX Technologies. After years of relentless dedication building my company from the ground up, I was thrilled to attend my brother Liam's wedding. Despite our often strained relationship, I genuinely hoped this would mark a fresh start for us. Little did I know my $30 million contract with my future brother-in-law's company would unexpectedly ignite a dramatic family showdown. What would you do if your own family treated you as though you were utterly invisible? I was about to show them exactly how visible I could be. Before I dive into this story, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. Drop your location in the comments below, hit that like button, and if you're new here, subscribe to hear more stories about standing up for yourself when it matters most. Now let me take you back to how this all began. Growing up in Westfield, Connecticut, Liam and I were actually quite close as children. Only 2 years apart, we spent idyllic summers building forts in the backyard and joyful winters sledding down Maple Hill. Our mother, Eleanor, would meticulously pack us identical lunches, and our father, Arthur, patiently taught us both how to fish on Lake Champlain during our annual family vacations. Those early memories were truly warm, safe, and uncomplicated. The shift, however, began subtly. When we entered high school, Liam, much like our father, joined the football team. I, on the other hand, gravitated toward computer science and the debate team. Our parents attended every single one of Liam's games, cheering loudly from the stands with neighborhood friends. For my debate competitions and science fairs, they'd usually have something come up, or arrive late, often missing my presentations entirely. Business and sports build character, my father would often say, clapping Liam heartily on the shoulder. All that computer stuff is just a hobby, Victoria. You'll grow out of it. But I didn't grow out of it. Instead, I earned a scholarship to MIT while Liam attended our father's alma mater on a partial athletic scholarship. During family holiday gatherings, conversations invariably revolved around Liam's fraternity escapades and football statistics. My academic achievements were acknowledged with polite nods before someone would quickly change the subject to something everyone could relate to. After graduation, I immersed myself in 80-hour work weeks at a tech startup in Boston, absorbing every possible detail about the industry. Meanwhile, Liam joined Reed Construction, the family business my grandfather had started, and my father had expanded. Liam was immediately given a management position despite having a business degree that he'd barely earned with C-average grades. It's about practical experience, not just book smarts, my mother explained, her tone dismissive when I dared to question the fairness during a rare Sunday dinner visit. Liam understands how the real world works. Starting InnovateX Technologies at 28, I took the biggest risk of my life. I cashed in my meager savings, secured a small business loan, and founded InnovateX Technologies. The first 2 years were absolutely brutal. I converted my one-bedroom apartment into an office space, sleeping on a pull-out couch in the living room. Ramen noodles became both breakfast and dinner as I poured every single penny into the business. When I called home during that period, conversations were brief and laced with thinly veiled concern. "I'm worried about you, honey," my mother would sigh. "There's always a position at your father's company if this doesn't work out." They never offered to invest, never asked about my business plan, and never seemed to believe I could succeed on my own terms. Then came the breakthrough. InnovateX developed a revolutionary supply chain management software that quickly attracted attention from several major corporations. Suddenly, I was hiring employees, moving into a real office, and fielding calls from investors who had previously ignored my emails. It was during this exhilarating upswing that Liam met Serena Davis at a charity golf tournament. Serena was the only daughter of Maxwell Davis, the owner of Davis Enterprises, a national commercial real estate development company worth billions. Their courtship was fast and flashy, featuring vacations to the Maldives and weekend trips to Paris. My parents were absolutely ecstatic. "Maxwell has taken quite a shine to Liam," my mother gushed during one of our monthly phone calls. "He's introducing him to all the right people. This relationship could really take the family business to new heights." The irony wasn't lost on me. While my own business achievements were treated as a curious hobby, Liam's relationship was celebrated as a strategic business move. 6 months into their relationship, Liam and Serena announced their engagement. The Davis and Reed families quickly merged their social circles with my parents, suddenly attending country club events and charity galas they'd previously dismissed as pretentious. Meanwhile, through completely separate channels, Davis Enterprises had been searching for a new technological solution to their increasingly complex supply chain issues. Their operations director, Sarah White, found InnovateX through an industry conference where I had presented our software. She had no idea about the family connection when she reached out. After 3 grueling months of demonstrations, security audits, and intense negotiations, Davis Enterprises signed a $30 million contract with InnovateX Technologies. It was the largest deal in my company's history, one that would allow us to expand internationally and develop new product lines. I mentioned the contract to my parents during our weekly call, hoping they might finally acknowledge my success. "That's nice, dear," my mother said, her voice completely devoid of excitement. "Did you get the invitation to Liam and Serena's engagement party?" "It's at the Davis estate. Maxwell has his own golf course on the property." Meeting Maxwell Davis 2 weeks later at the engagement party, I met Maxwell Davis for the first time. He was tall, impeccably dressed, with distinguished silver hair, and the confident posture of a man accustomed to being the most powerful person in any room. "So you're the brilliant mind behind InnovateX," he said, shaking my hand firmly, his gaze direct and appraising. "Your team's presentation blew our tech department away. Sarah says your software will save us millions in the first year alone." "Thank you, Mr. Davis. We're excited about the partnership. Please call me Maxwell, and we must set up a proper dinner soon. I'd love to hear more about where you see technology heading in our industry." Before I could respond, my mother suddenly appeared at my elbow, her eyes wide with surprise. "You two have met?" she asked, looking between us. "Just now," I replied. "Maxwell was kind enough to compliment our software." Maxwell's eyebrows rose. "Wait, Reed, you're Liam's sister?" He never mentioned his sister ran InnovateX Technologies. An uncomfortable silence followed. My mother laughed nervously. "Oh, Victoria has always been our little computer genius," she said, as if explaining away a child's quirky hobby. "Liam focuses more on the construction side of things like his father." Maxwell looked momentarily confused, but quickly recovered his composure. "Well, apparently genius runs in the family, just in different directions. This is a remarkable coincidence." It wasn't a coincidence that my brother had never mentioned my company to his future father-in-law. It was a deliberate omission. My success simply didn't fit the narrative Liam had carefully constructed about himself as the family achiever. Despite this unsettling revelation, I held on to a sliver of hope that Liam's wedding might be a turning point. Perhaps the undeniable evidence of my success through the Davis contract would finally earn me the respect I'd worked so incredibly hard to achieve. I spent weeks selecting the perfect outfit, a tailored navy blue dress that projected both elegance and authority. I even arranged for Leo Miller, a respected venture capitalist I'd been dating for 3 months, to accompany me. "Are you sure you want me there?" Leo asked over dinner the week before the wedding. "From everything you've told me about your family dynamics, it sounds like it might be stressful." "That's exactly why I want you there," I admitted, feeling a pang of vulnerability. "Having someone who sees me for who I actually am will help me keep perspective." The night before the wedding, I called Liam, genuinely wanting to connect before the inevitable chaos of the event. "Hey, just wanted to say I'm really happy for you," I said when he answered. "And I'm looking forward to tomorrow." "Thanks, sis," he replied, sounding distracted. "It's crazy here. Serena's got the wedding planner on speed dial and Maxwell keeps adding people to the guest list." "Anything I can help with?" "Nah, we've got it covered." A pause. "Listen about the seating arrangements." "Yes." "Nothing, just we've had to make some last-minute changes with all the additions, but it's handled now. See you tomorrow, okay?" As I hung up, I felt a familiar twinge of unease, but I pushed it aside. Tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow, finally, I would be seen. The Davis estate. The Davis estate sprawled across 30 acres of manicured gardens with breathtaking views of Long Island Sound in the distance. Cars lined the winding driveway, a mix of luxury vehicles that probably cost more than most people's homes. Leo whistled low as we pulled up in my Tesla. "You didn't mention this was going to be quite so extravagant," he said, adjusting his tie. "I didn't know," I admitted. "This is my first time at the Davis estate, too." A valet in a crisp uniform opened my door with a practiced smile. "Welcome to the Davis Reed wedding, ma'am." The main house was a grand Georgian-style mansion with towering columns and symmetrical wings extending from either side. A string quartet played softly near an ornate fountain, where guests in formal attire mingled champagne flutes in hand. White roses and orchids adorned every surface, their subtle fragrance mixing with the salt air from the nearby sound. "Victoria!" My mother's voice carried across the garden. She approached us in a pale pink dress that she'd mentioned purchasing specifically for the occasion during 3 separate phone calls. "You're here, and who is this?" "Mom, this is Leo Miller. Leo, my mother, Eleanor Reed." Leo extended his hand with a warm, genuine smile. "Pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Reed. You have a lovely family." "Thank you," she replied, her eyes quickly assessing him before turning back to me. "Victoria, your father is by the bar with Maxwell and some of the investors. You should come say hello." She didn't wait for a response before turning and expecting us to follow. "She seems nice," Leo whispered, his tone gently teasing. "Just wait," I murmured back. My father stood in a circle of men in dark suits, all laughing heartily at something Maxwell Davis had just said. When he spotted me, his smile faltered for just a moment before recovering. "There's my girl," he said, giving me a quick one-armed hug. And who's this young man? After introducing Leo again, I turned to Maxwell Davis, who greeted me with considerably more enthusiasm than my own father. Victoria, the woman of the hour, I was just telling these gentlemen about how your software is revolutionizing our operations. 3 months in, and we're already seeing results. The men in the circle regarded me with newfound interest. You're behind the InnovateX system? Asked an older man with a southern accent. Davis hasn't stopped talking about it, says it's saving him a fortune in logistics alone. Before I could respond, my father cleared his throat. Well, Victoria always did have a knack for computers. Liam's the one who introduced her to Maxwell, didn't you know? Always looking out for his little sister. The lie hung in the air between us, thick and suffocating. Maxwell Davis's eyebrows rose slightly, but he said nothing to contradict my father. Actually, I began, but was abruptly interrupted by the radiant appearance of the bride herself. Serena Davis floated toward us in a cloud of white designer silk, her blonde hair arranged in an elaborate updo, adorned with tiny diamond clips that caught the sunlight. Victoria, you came, she exclaimed, air-kissing both my cheeks. And in navy blue. How practical. Her gaze flicked over my carefully chosen dress, with the barest hint of a dismissive smile. Though I thought I mentioned the family was wearing pastels for the photos. You didn't actually, I replied evenly, my voice a calm contrast to the rising tension I felt. But congratulations, Serena, everything looks beautiful. Doesn't it Daddy spared no expense? She beamed, linking her arm through Maxwell's. Liam's getting ready with his groomsmen. The ceremony starts in 30 minutes. Her eyes landed on Leo with unexpected interest. And who might this be? After introductions, Serena's demeanor warmed noticeably. Leo Miller of Horizon Ventures. Why, Daddy's mentioned your firm before. You really must join us at the family table for the reception. Leo's hand found the small of my back, a subtle comforting gesture. Thank you, but I'll be sitting with Victoria, of course. Of course, of course. Serena's perfect smile tightened ever so slightly. Speaking of which, I should check with the wedding planner about the final seating arrangements. So many last-minute changes. As she glided away, Leo leaned close to my ear. Is it my imagination, or did the temperature just drop 20 degrees? The ceremony itself was elaborate but impersonal, featuring a famous string quartet, a celebrity officiant, and vows that sounded like they'd been meticulously written by a publicist. Liam looked handsome, but undeniably nervous in his tuxedo, his eyes rarely meeting Serena's during their exchange of vows. Afterward, guests were directed to a massive tent set up on the sprawling lawn for the reception. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting a warm glow over dozens of round tables draped in pristine white linen and centered with towering floral arrangements. Let's find our seats, I suggested to Leo, scanning the room for a seating chart. A harried-looking wedding planner with a tablet stood near the entrance, directing guests. When I gave her my name, she frowned and scrolled through her list several times. Reed, that's odd. Let me check another list. A sense of foreboding crept up my spine as she continued searching, her brow furrowed in concentration. Here we are, Victoria Reed, +1. You're at O. Her professional mask slipped for just a moment, revealing a flicker of discomfort. Is there a problem? Leo asked, his voice calm but firm. No problem, just a moment, please. She stammered, hurrying away and disappearing into the bustling crowd. 5 uncomfortable minutes later, she returned with an older woman who introduced herself as the catering manager. Miss Reed there seems to have been an oversight with the seating arrangements, she explained in a low, apologetic voice. The main reception tables are all filled to capacity. I RSVP'd 2 months ago, I replied, my voice steady despite the rising frustration. And I'm the groom's sister. The catering manager nodded apologetically. Yes, we understand. We've arranged alternative seating for you and your guest. Alternative seating. Leo repeated, his tone incredulous. If you'll follow me, please. Rather than leading us to any of the elegant tables in the main reception area, she guided us through a discreet side door and down a quiet hallway. The sounds of the celebration grew more distant, with each step the joyous music fading into a dull murmur. Finally, she opened a door to reveal the bustling kitchen, where staff in black and white uniforms bustled about preparing food with swift, practiced movements. In the corner, almost as an afterthought, stood a small table with 2 chairs hastily covered with a crumpled white tablecloth. You can't be serious, I said, feeling a burning heat rise to my face. My heart pounded with a mix of disbelief and indignation. I do apologize for the inconvenience, the manager replied, not quite meeting my eyes. The bride made some last-minute changes to accommodate important business associates. I am a business associate, I pointed out, my voice quivering slightly with suppressed anger. Davis Enterprises just signed a $30 million contract with my company. The manager looked genuinely confused, her eyes widening. I wasn't informed of that. I'm just following the instructions I was given. Before she could continue, Serena appeared in the doorway. champagne flute in hand, her eyes gleaming with barely concealed satisfaction as she surveyed the scene. "Is there a problem here?" she asked, her voice saccharine, dripping with false concern. "Yes, there's a problem," I replied, struggling desperately to keep my voice steady to prevent it from cracking under the weight of the humiliation. "You've seated me and my guest in the kitchen. I'm your husband's sister." Serena took a slow, deliberate sip of her champagne before responding, her gaze unwavering. "We had to prioritize Victoria. Daddy's business associates and our closest friends needed the premium tables. I'm sure you understand." "Actually, I don't," I countered, my voice gaining strength. "And I think Liam would be upset to know you've relegated his sister to the kitchen." Something cold and calculating flashed in Serena's eyes, a hint of steel beneath her polished exterior. "Liam approved the seating chart this morning," she said, her voice dropping each word a deliberate blow. "He knows exactly where everyone is sitting." The betrayal hit me like a physical blow, a sudden, gut-wrenching realization. My own brother had agreed to this humiliation. "This is completely inappropriate," Leo said firmly, stepping forward, his presence a comforting anchor. "We'll be joining the main reception." Serena's perfect mask finally slipped for just a moment, revealing the raw contempt beneath. "The help eats in the kitchen," she sneered, gesturing dismissively with her champagne flute. "You should feel right at home considering your humble beginnings." The catering manager looked utterly mortified, backing away from the escalating confrontation. Several kitchen staff members paused in their work, pretending awkwardly not to listen, their eyes darting nervously in our direction. In that moment, something inside me snapped. Decades of being diminished, overlooked, and now openly disrespected crystallized into perfect, painful clarity. I wouldn't cause a scene. I wouldn't lower myself to Serena's level. But I would no longer accept being treated as less than. "Leo," I said quietly, my voice calm despite the tremor in my hands. "I need a moment alone. Would you mind waiting for me outside?" He squeezed my hand in understanding. "Take all the time you need. I'll be right outside." After they left, I stood alone in the bustling kitchen, ironically invisible to my own family, yet responsible for a multi-million-dollar contract that would benefit the very people who couldn't bother to give me a seat at their table. I knew exactly what I needed to do. The women's restroom off the main hallway was empty, thankfully. I locked myself in a stall, leaned against the door, and finally allowed the hot, humiliating tears to fall. I covered my mouth to muffle the sound, not wanting anyone who might enter to hear me breaking down, hear the raw anguish of my spirit. How had I deluded myself into believing this wedding would be different, that my success would finally earn me a place in my own family? The pattern was so clear now, stretching back through the years like a cruel roadmap of dismissal and favoritism. I remembered my 16th birthday when my parents forgot because Liam had a regional football championship the same weekend. They'd hastily bought a sad, deflated cake from the grocery store 3 days later, the candles sinking into melting frosting as they explained how proud they were of Liam's performance. Then there was my college graduation from MIT summa cum laude. My parents arrived an hour late, missing my valedictorian speech entirely because Liam's fraternity had an alumni breakfast they couldn't possibly miss. They even brought him along to my celebration dinner, where he dominated the conversation with tedious stories about his summer internship at a friend's father's company. And the day I signed the lease on my first real office space for InnovateX, I'd called home bursting with pride, only to be told they couldn't talk long because they were hosting a barbecue to celebrate Liam's promotion to vice president at Reed Construction, a title created specifically for him. Even today, on what should have been one of the happiest days for a family, I was literally being hidden away, deemed unworthy of sitting with important people despite my own significant achievements. A gentle knock on the bathroom door startled me out of my painful thoughts. "Victoria, it's Leo. Are you okay?" I quickly wiped my eyes, took a deep, shaky breath, and opened the door. Leo stood there, genuine concern etched across his handsome face, holding 2 flutes of champagne. "Thought you might need this," he said, offering me a glass. I accepted it gratefully, taking a long, much-needed sip. "I'm sorry you're witnessing this family dysfunction." He leaned casually against the wall beside me. "Don't apologize. If anything, I'm getting a very illuminating look at what you've been dealing with your entire life. And yet I still came..." I whispered the words, heavy with lingering pain. "Still hoping for... I don't even know what." Acceptance, recognition. The basic respect any person deserves from their family. "Those aren't unreasonable things to want, Victoria," Leo suggested gently. I sipped my champagne, considering his words, the cool bubbles a stark contrast to the burning in my chest. "The thing is, I don't actually need their approval anymore. I built InnovateX without their support. I have a team that respects me, clients who value what I've created, and friends who see me for who I really am." I glanced at him, a flicker of something new in my eyes. "I have you." "You certainly do," he confirmed with a warm, comforting smile. "So, what do you want to do? We can leave right now, get dinner somewhere else, maybe catch a movie." Pretend this whole wedding fiasco never happened. My phone buzzed softly in my clutch. I pulled it out to see Sarah White's name on the screen. I should take this, I said, straightening my posture. It's the operations director from Davis Enterprises. Leo nodded, stepping away to give me privacy. Everything okay? Everything's fine, Victoria. Just wanted to confirm our meeting next week about the Phase 2 implementation, and to let you know the first payment for the contract was processed this morning. $30 million, right on schedule. As Sarah continued discussing technical details, a powerful realization dawned on me. I wasn't powerless here. I had built something valuable, something even Maxwell Davis couldn't dismiss. And while I couldn't change how my family saw me, I could change how I responded to their egregious treatment. Sarah, can I call you back in about 20 minutes? I'm actually at the Davis Reed wedding right now. Oh, I didn't realize you were attending. Of course, enjoy the celebration. We can talk Monday. After hanging up, I turned to find Leo watching me with a mixture of curiosity and anticipation. What are you thinking? He asked, recognizing the subtle but profound shift in my demeanor. I'm thinking that I've spent my entire life hoping my family would recognize my worth. I replied, surprising even myself with how calm and resolute I felt. But maybe it's time I recognized it myself and acted accordingly. What does that mean exactly? I smoothed my dress and checked my reflection in the mirror, wiping away the last lingering traces of tears. It means I'm not going to hide in the kitchen like I'm ashamed of who I am. It means I'm going to walk back into that reception with my head held high. And it means I'm going to make a business decision based on how I've been treated, not on family obligation. Leo's eyes widened slightly as understanding dawned. The Davis contract. Exactly. Maxwell Davis wants the benefits of my company's software. But his daughter and my brother think I'm only worthy of sitting with the kitchen staff. That's not a business relationship I want to maintain. Are you sure about this? It's a $30 million contract. I took a deep breath, calculating exactly what this would mean for InnovateX. Yes, the Davis contract was significant, but it wasn't our only major client. We had diversified well over the past 2 years. Losing the contract would hurt, but it wouldn't devastate us. And the message it would send was worth far more than the money. I've never been more sure of anything. I replied, my voice steady, imbued with a newfound strength. I deserve better than this both personally and professionally, and it's time everyone understood that. Leo smiled slowly, a look of profound admiration in his eyes. Then I'm with you, whatever you decide to do. We walked back toward the reception together, my mind clear and my purpose defined. For the first time that day, I felt a deep sense of peace, not because I was about to retaliate, but because I was finally valuing myself enough to establish firm boundaries even with family. Just outside the reception tent, I paused watching through the opening as Liam and Serena moved from table to table greeting guests. They stopped at the head table where Maxwell Davis sat with several distinguished-looking men in expensive suits, all laughing and raising glasses in a toast. That's where I should be sitting, I said quietly, my voice firm with conviction. Not because I'm Liam's sister, but because I'm the CEO of a company that Davis Enterprises desperately needs. Then let's make sure they understand exactly who they decided to seat in the kitchen, Leo replied, offering me his arm. With my head held high and my decision made, I stepped back into the reception. No longer seeking approval, but ready to command the respect I'd earned. The reception was in full swing when Leo and I re-entered the tent. A jazz band played smoothly from a raised platform while waitstaff circulated with trays of exquisite hors d'oeuvres and champagne. Crystal and silver gleamed under the chandeliers, and the buzz of conversation mixed with occasional bursts of laughter. No one seemed to notice our return, which ironically was fitting, given how they had tried to render me invisible in the first place. I scanned the room until I spotted what I was looking for, the head table where Maxwell Davis sat with Liam and Serena, along with what appeared to be several key business associates. They're discussing the merger, Leo murmured, following my gaze. I recognized David Harris from Coastal Development. If they're bringing him in, Davis must be planning a major expansion. That explained the important business associates, who had taken priority over family. Maxwell was clearly using his daughter's wedding as a high-stakes business opportunity, and Liam was playing along, probably hoping to benefit from the powerful connections. Perfect timing, I replied, straightening my shoulders, a steely resolve settling within me. Shall we? We made our way across the room, pausing occasionally as guests I didn't recognize congratulated me on my brother's beautiful wedding. Each time I thanked them politely before continuing my deliberate path toward the head table. As we approached, I could hear Maxwell mid-pitch, combining our resources with Reed Construction for the residential components while maintaining Davis's focus on commercial properties. Liam here will oversee the transition with the new software system we've implemented. We expect to increase efficiency by at least 20% in the first year alone. Liam nodded eagerly, clearly pleased to be presented as a key player in this high-level business discussion. Serena sat beside him, one hand possessively on his arm, while she surveyed the room with the satisfied look of someone who had everything arranged exactly as she wanted it. They didn't notice me until I was standing directly at the table, a silent, commanding presence. Maxwell saw me first, his expression shifting from surprise to discomfort. "Victoria," he said, straightening in his chair, a flicker of unease in his eyes. "We were just discussing business, something about software implementation that might interest you." "Yes, I heard," I replied calmly, my voice cutting through the celebratory din. "You were discussing the software my company created? The one your operations director specifically sought out because it's the best in the industry." Liam's confident smile faltered as he looked nervously between Maxwell and me. "Vic, maybe we can talk about this later. We're kind of in the middle of something here." "Yes, I can see that," I retorted, my tone chillingly polite. "Using your wedding reception to negotiate business deals while seating your own sister in the kitchen. Very efficient use of time." A hush fell over the immediate area, the sudden silence amplified by the lingering music. The businessmen at the table exchanged uncomfortable glances, their expressions shifting from amused interest to palpable awkwardness. "There was a misunderstanding with the seating," Serena interjected, her voice tight, a forced smile plastered on her face. "These things happen at large events." "Do they?" I asked, my eyebrows raised. "Funny how the misunderstanding resulted in the CEO of a company you just paid $30 million to being seated with the catering staff while business prospects got priority treatment." Maxwell Davis's expression darkened, a vein throbbing slightly on his temple. $30 million. What are you talking about, Victoria? Your company signed a contract with InnovateX Technologies 3 months ago. I'm the founder and CEO of InnovateX. The software you were just bragging about, that's my creation." Maxwell's face registered genuine shock as he slowly turned to Liam. "You never mentioned your sister was the head of InnovateX?" Liam shifted uncomfortably, his previous confidence completely evaporated. It didn't seem relevant at the time." "Not relevant," I echoed, my voice laced with incredulity. "You didn't think it was relevant that your sister's company was providing the technology your father-in-law was investing millions in?" "Now isn't the time for this discussion," Serena hissed, her perfect composure finally cracking her eyes, flashing with fury. "You're making a scene at our wedding." I reached for my phone, my movements deliberate and calm, defying her emotional outburst. "You're right, this isn't a discussion. This is a business decision." I dialed a number from my contacts and held the phone to my ear, maintaining unblinking eye contact with Liam as it rang. "Gregory, it's Victoria Reed." I spoke clearly, loud enough for everyone at the table to hear my voice unwavering. "I need you to cancel the $30 million contract with Davis Enterprises effective immediately." Liam's face went pale, his mouth opening and closing without sound like a fish out of water. Maxwell Davis half rose from his chair, his expression a mixture of confusion and mounting dangerous anger. "Victoria, what are you doing?" he demanded. I held up one finger silently, commanding his silence, continuing my conversation. "Yes, I understand the implications. No, this isn't a negotiating tactic. Please have legal prepare the termination paperwork immediately. I'll be in first thing Monday morning to sign everything." Serena's composure shattered completely. "You can't do that. Daddy just implemented your system across all our properties." I ended the call and slipped my phone back into my clutch, a sense of profound liberation washing over me. I can, and I have. InnovateX Technologies doesn't partner with companies that demonstrate such poor judgment and lack of basic professional courtesy. "This is absurd," Maxwell sputtered, his face flushed. "You're canceling a multi-million-dollar contract because of a seating arrangement." "No, Mr. Davis," I corrected him, my voice firm and clear. "I'm canceling it because this seating arrangement revealed the fundamental character of your organization. If this is how you treat a CEO when you think she's just someone's sister, I have serious concerns about how you'll honor our partnership when larger issues arise." The business associates at the table were watching with keen interest now, clearly reassessing both me and the burgeoning Davis-Reed alliance. "Liam," Maxwell turned to my brother, his voice dangerously low, each word a venomous whisper. "Did you know about this? About who your sister is in relation to our company?" Liam swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing. I knew she had a tech company. I didn't realize it was the same one you were working with." "That's a lie," I said quietly, my voice calm but piercing. "Sarah White mentioned our family connection to you 3 weeks ago when she discovered it. She told me she spoke to you directly." Liam's ashen face confirmed the brutal truth before he could formulate another pathetic denial. Maxwell's expression hardened as he realized he'd been deliberately kept in the dark, manipulated. "We need to discuss this now," Maxwell said, standing abruptly and grabbing Liam's arm with surprising force. "Somewhere private." Serena rose as well, her face flushed with incandescent anger. "You're ruining everything," she hissed at me, her eyes blazing. "This wedding cost over $2 million, and you're turning it into a business dispute." "No, you ruined it," I countered, refusing to match her emotional outburst, my voice remaining steady. "When you decided I wasn't good enough to sit with my own family, I simply decided I wasn't going to accept that treatment any longer. as Maxwell led a stunned Liam away, with Serena trailing closely behind her. Angry whispers fading, Leo placed his hand on the small of my back, a comforting presence. That, he said quietly, a hint of admiration in his voice, was the most professionally executed takedown I've ever witnessed. For the first time that day, a genuine smile spread across my face, light and free. Let's get out of here. I suddenly have a taste for real food, preferably somewhere where I can sit at an actual table. As we turned to leave, several of the business associates from the head table who had witnessed the entire dramatic exchange approached me, business cards seemingly appearing from inside their suit jackets. Miss Reed David Harris from Coastal Development. A distinguished gentleman offered, extending his card. I'd be very interested in learning more about what InnovateX Technologies has to offer. Another man stepped forward, his eyes bright with keen interest. Mark Jones, Apex Investments. I've been following your company's growth. Perhaps we could schedule a meeting next week. The very people Maxwell and Liam had been courting were now approaching me directly. The irony wasn't lost on me, but I didn't feel any particular satisfaction from it. This wasn't about revenge or one-upmanship. It was simply about standing up for myself and my company's value. I accepted their cards politely but didn't linger. My assistant will be in touch to arrange meetings, but right now I'm afraid I need to leave. As Leo and I walked out of the tent, the unmistakable sounds of raised voices could be heard coming from the direction Maxwell had taken Liam. The perfect wedding was unraveling not because of my actions, but because of the choices they had made long before I even arrived. We had barely reached the valet stand when my phone began ringing repeatedly. I silenced it without even looking at the caller ID, already knowing exactly who it would be. The young valet brought my Tesla around his eyes, widening slightly as he handed me the keys. Nice car, he commented, clearly impressed. Thanks, I replied, tipping him generously. It's amazing what you can afford when you build your own company instead of relying on family connections. Leo chuckled as he slid into the passenger seat. Feeling a bit petty, are we? Just a touch, I'd admitted, starting the engine. I think I've earned it today. Before I could pull away, a familiar figure appeared in my side mirror, moving quickly across the parking area, his face flushed and tie askew, practically jogging toward the car. Victoria, stop right there, young lady. I sighed and rolled down the window but kept the engine running. Yes, Dad. He reached the car, breathing heavily from the exertion, his eyes blazing. What the hell do you think you're doing? Maxwell Davis is livid. Liam's wedding is in shambles. Your mother is in tears, and it's all because you couldn't handle a simple seating mix-up. A mix-up, I repeated incredulously, my voice rising. They seated me in the kitchen. Dad. The kitchen. And Serena made it very clear it was deliberate. So what, you sit where you're told at someone else's wedding? That's basic manners. But instead, you had to make it all about you and your wounded pride. Leo leaned forward, his voice calm but firm. Sir, with all due respect, your daughter is the CEO of a successful technology company that Davis Enterprises sought out specifically because of its excellence. She deserves better treatment than she received today. My father's eyes narrowed as he took in Leo for the first time, a look of contempt flashing across his face. And who exactly are you to tell me how my daughter should be treated? Dad, this is Leo Miller. He's with me and he's right. This wasn't about pride. It was about basic respect, something I haven't received from this family in a very long time. Respect. My father's voice rose, edged with frustration. You want to talk about respect when you just canceled a contract with your brother's father-in-law? Do you have any idea what you've done to Liam's position in the family? Maxwell was going to make him a partner in their next development project. And there it was. The real concern wasn't about me, or even about the ruined wedding. It was about Liam's business opportunity, his chance to climb higher on the ladder of success that had always been extended to him while I built my own from scratch. I'm sorry if my actions impacted Liam's business prospects. I said not feeling sorry at all. But I need to protect my company's interests and my own professional reputation. Davis Enterprises doesn't get to treat me like a second-class citizen while benefiting from my technology. You need to fix this, my father insisted, his face contorted with anger. Call them back. Tell them it was a misunderstanding, that you were emotional because of the wedding. I will not, I replied firmly, my voice unwavering. The decision stands, and if anything, this conversation only confirms I made the right choice. My mother appeared behind my father, her carefully applied makeup now smudged around her eyes, tears streaming down her face. Victoria, please, Liam is devastated. Can't you see what you're doing to this family? What I'm doing... I felt a sharp, bitter laugh escape, though there was no humor in it. I've spent my entire life being overlooked and dismissed by this family. I built a successful company without any support or encouragement from any of you. And the first time I stand up for myself, I'm the one destroying the family. That's not fair, my mother protested weakly. We've always been proud of you. Really name one time you've bragged about my accomplishments the way you constantly broadcast Liam's. Name one time you've introduced me to someone important with the same enthusiasm you just showed for Liam's connection to the Davises. Her silence was answer enough, a stark confirmation of my words. The commotion had attracted attention. Several wedding guests had gathered at a distance, watching the unfolding family drama with poorly disguised interest. Among them, I spotted cousin Jessica, who had witnessed the kitchen incident earlier, and now gave me a subtle thumbs up from behind my parents' backs. I think we should continue this conversation another time, I suggested, acutely aware of the growing audience, my voice strained. When emotions aren't running so high. There's nothing to discuss, my father replied coldly, his eyes narrowed into furious slits. You've made your choice very clear today. Liam is family. Maxwell Davis is now family. And you just declared yourself against both of them. No, Dad, I corrected him, my voice firm and steady. I declared myself worthy of basic respect. There's a difference. Before he could respond, another figure emerged from the main house. Liam, his face ashen, and his perfect wedding attire now rumpled and disheveled, approached the car with Serena and Maxwell Davis, trailing several steps behind, their expressions grim. Vic, what the hell? Liam's voice cracked with emotion, his eyes wide and panicked. Maxwell is talking about pulling all his business from Reed Construction. Now, do you know what that would do to Dad's company? I'm sorry, Liam, I said, my voice softer, though unwavering. That wasn't my intention. But it's the result, he shouted uncharacteristically, losing his composure, his voice echoing in the quiet evening. You couldn't just sit where you were told for one day you had to make some grand stand about your stupid tech company? Leo tensed beside me, but I placed a hand on his arm, silently asking him to let me handle this. My stupid tech company is valued at over $200 million, Liam. It employs 65 people, and until an hour ago, it was providing essential services to Davis Enterprises. I didn't make a grand stand. I made a business decision based on how I was treated. Fix it, Liam demanded, his voice desperate. Call whoever you called and tell them it was a mistake. It wasn't a mistake, I replied calmly. And I'm not going to pretend it was just to salvage your business opportunity. Serena pushed past Liam, her perfect bridal appearance, now considerably disheveled, her eyes blazing with fury. This is all your fault, she practically screeched, her voice shrill. You've ruined the most important day of my life because your feelings got hurt over a stupid table. Serena, that's enough. Maxwell Davis's authoritative voice cut through his daughter's tirade. He approached the car with measured steps, his expression unreadable, a flicker of something akin to grudging respect in his eyes as he looked at me. Miss Reed, I think there's been a serious miscommunication today. There's been no miscommunication, Mr. Davis. Your daughter made it very clear where she thought I belonged. I see. He glanced at Serena, who had the grace to look momentarily abashed. Nevertheless, I think we should discuss this privately as business professionals. The contract between our companies is significant, and terminating it so abruptly would have serious consequences for both parties. I'm aware of the consequences, I replied, my decision unwavering. My decision stands. Maxwell's composed facade cracked slightly. You're willing to throw away $30 million over a seating arrangement. I'm willing to walk away from a business relationship where I'm not respected. The money is secondary. A flash of something that might have been respect crossed Maxwell's face before he schooled his features back to neutrality. I see. Well, my legal team will be in touch regarding the termination procedures. I'll have my team ready to facilitate a smooth transition, I assured him. Despite everything, I don't want your operations to suffer unnecessarily. This professional exchange seemed to infuriate Serena even more. Daddy, you can't just let her do this. She's trying to ruin us because she's jealous of what Liam and I have. Maxwell turned to his daughter with a sharpness I hadn't seen before, his voice cold and cutting. Serena, you've done quite enough for one day. Go back inside and attend to our guests. We'll discuss this later. As Serena stormed off, followed by my parents, Maxwell leaned closer to my window. For what it's worth, he said quietly, his voice lower now, almost a murmur. I had no idea about the seating situation. Had I known, I would have intervened. Thank you for saying that, I replied, a small, genuine smile forming on my lips. But it doesn't change my decision. He nodded once, straightening. I understand. And while I disagree with your choice from a business perspective, I can't say I don't admire your principles. He extended his hand. Good day, Miss Reed. I shook his hand briefly, a firm, decisive grip before putting the car in drive. Liam remained standing in the driveway, his expression a mixture of anger and disbelief as we pulled away. That was intense, Leo commented as we turned onto the main road. Are you okay? I took a deep breath, feeling the suffocating tension of the day begin to finally ease from my shoulders, a profound sense of liberation filling the void. Honestly, I feel better than I have in years, like I finally stopped carrying a weight I didn't even realize I was bearing. The weight of seeking their approval, Leo suggested gently. Exactly. I glanced in the rearview mirror at the Davis estate rapidly receding in the distance, a grand monument to their misplaced priorities. I spent so long trying to prove myself to people who were never going to see my value. Today, I finally saw it for myself. So what now? Leo asked, his voice filled with warm affection. Besides finding a place with excellent food and proper seating arrangements, I laughed a genuine joyful laugh that surprised me with its lightness and freedom. Now we rebuild. InnovateX will be fine without the Davis contract. We have other clients, other opportunities. And I have something I never fully had before. What's that? Self-respect, I replied, simply the word resonating deeply within me. And it turns out that's worth more than $30 million. The first email arrived at 6:43 a.m. Monday morning. By the time I walked into the InnovateX Technologies office at 8, my inbox contained 17 frantic messages from various executives at Davis Enterprises ranging from apologetic to utterly desperate. Sarah White had sent 3 alone, each more urgent than the last. Good morning, Brenda. I greeted my assistant as I passed her desk, my voice calm and collected. I assume you've seen the email situation. Brenda nodded, her expression a mix of concern and bewilderment. It's been nonstop since before I arrived. Sarah White has called twice already, she sounds stressed. And Maxwell Davis himself called 5 minutes ago, asking when you'd be available to speak with him. Schedule a call with Sarah for 10:00. As for Maxwell Davis, tell him I'm in meetings all day but can speak with him tomorrow afternoon. Tomorrow? Brenda's eyebrows rose, clearly surprised. He seemed to think it was rather urgent. I'm sure he did, I replied mildly, a hint of a smile playing on my lips. But I need time to prepare our transition plan with the team before I discuss anything with him. I had just settled at my desk when Tom Black, our chief operating officer, appeared in my doorway, his expression a mixture of concern and curious anticipation. So, he began leaning casually against the doorframe. Want to tell me what happened at your brother's wedding that resulted in you canceling our biggest contract to date? I gestured for him to close the door and take a seat. It's a long story, but the short version is that Davis Enterprises, or more specifically the Davis family, demonstrated that they don't respect me or this company. I decided we shouldn't be doing business with people who don't value us properly. Tom whistled low, his eyes wide. That must have been some wedding. You have no idea, I replied briefly, recounting the kitchen incident and the subsequent confrontation. When I finished, Tom was silent for a moment, absorbing the gravity of my narrative. I'd like to say I'm shocked, Victoria, but after everything you've told me about your family over the years, it unfortunately tracks. The question now is how we move forward, I said, refocusing on the immediate business implications. The Davis contract represented about 22% of our projected annual revenue. We need to make up that shortfall. Already working on it. Tom assured me, his gaze determined. That demonstration we did for Western Partners last month. They've been on the fence about implementing our system, but I think with a small incentive we could lock them in. It wouldn't completely replace Davis, but it would help soften the blow. Make it happen, I authorized. And let's accelerate the timeline on the international expansion. The European market has been showing significant interest, and without the Davis implementation taking up resources, we could redirect some of our team there. Our conversation was interrupted by Brenda buzzing my intercom. Victoria, I have David Harris from Coastal Development on line 1. He says it's regarding a potential contract. I exchanged a surprised look with Tom. David Harris from the wedding? Want me to give you some privacy? Tom offered, starting to rise. No, stay. I want your input on this. I pressed the speaker button. Mr. Harris, this is Victoria Reed. Miss Reed, thank you for taking my call. I hope I'm not interrupting your morning. Not at all. What can I do for you? Well, after our brief interaction at the Davis Reed wedding, I took the liberty of researching InnovateX Technologies more thoroughly. I'm quite impressed with what you've built, and I believe Coastal Development could benefit significantly from your supply chain management system. I maintained a professional tone despite my surprise. I appreciate your interest, Mr. Harris. We'd be happy to arrange a demonstration of our software at your convenience. Excellent. And there's one more thing. I understand your relationship with Davis Enterprises may be concluding. Coastal Development has been considering a partnership with them on several projects, but after witnessing Saturday's events, I'm reconsidering whether they're the right fit for our corporate culture. Tom's eyes widened, and I had to suppress a triumphant smile. I see. Well, Mr. Harris, while I can't comment on Davis's corporate culture, I can assure you that at InnovateX, we value professionalism and respect in all our business relationships. That was certainly evident from how you handled a rather difficult situation, he replied, a hint of admiration in his voice. I'll have my assistant coordinate with yours for that demonstration. Looking forward to it, Miss Reed. After ending the call, Tom let out a low whistle. Well, that was unexpected. What exactly happened at this wedding, Victoria? Let's just say it made an impression on several people, I replied, still processing this incredible development. We should prepare our best presentation for Coastal. Their property portfolio is even larger than Davis's. By lunchtime, news of the contract cancellation had spread through the company. While I hadn't shared the personal details, the senior team understood that something significant had occurred to prompt such a drastic decision. To their credit, no one questioned my judgment, instead focusing on solutions and next steps. My 10-100 call with Sarah White had been difficult but professional. She was understandably upset about losing a system her team had spent months implementing, but her anger seemed directed more at the situation than at me personally. For what it's worth, she'd said near the end of our conversation, her voice tired. I had no idea about the seating incident until Maxwell told me this morning. It was completely unprofessional and inappropriate. I appreciate that Sarah and I want you to know this isn't a reflection on your team's work with us. You've been excellent partners throughout the implementation process. Is there any way we could salvage this? She asked, a thread of hope in her voice. Perhaps with different terms or conditions. I don't think so, I replied honestly. Some lines once crossed can't be uncrossed. But I promise we'll do everything possible to ensure a smooth transition to whatever system you choose next. At 300, my personal cell phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. Normally I would let it go to voicemail, but something prompted me to answer. Victoria Reed speaking. Victoria, this is Aunt Carol, your father's sister. I was momentarily speechless. Aunt Carol had been estranged from our family for nearly 20 years, following some unspecified disagreement with my father that was never fully explained to us children. Aunt Carol? This is unexpected. How did you get my number? I have my ways, she replied with a hint of amusement, a warm, knowing tone in her voice. And I've been keeping tabs on you from a distance. Your success with InnovateX is impressive, though not surprising to me. You always were the smart one. Thank you, I said, still confused by this sudden contact. But why are you calling now after all these years? Because I heard about what happened at Liam's wedding, she replied simply. Word travels fast in certain circles, and the Davis family is nothing if not well connected. Oh, I said, not sure how to respond. And you called to tell you I'm proud of you, she said firmly, her voice filled with a quiet intensity. For standing up to the Reed family tradition of favoring the male heir over the female innovator. It's about time someone broke that cycle. What do you mean? I asked, a knot forming in my stomach as I sensed a deeper truth. Aunt Carol sighed, a sound heavy with old wounds with unspoken disappointments. Victoria, why do you think I haven't spoken to your father in 20 years? It's the same story, different generation. I built a successful interior design firm in the 80s when women weren't exactly welcomed in the construction industry. Your grandfather and father decided my business was a cute hobby and gave the family construction company entirely to your father, even though I had worked there every summer and holiday since I was 16. The parallels were unmistakable, a chilling echo from the past. I had no idea, I admitted, my voice barely a whisper. Dad never really explained why you weren't around. Of course he didn't, Aunt Carol replied without bitterness, merely a matter-of-fact observation. It didn't fit the narrative, but I want you to know that what you did standing up for yourself means something. It breaks a pattern that's been in our family for generations. We talked for nearly an hour. Aunt Carol filling in painful gaps in my understanding of our family history and sharing her own journey of building a business without family support. By the time we hung up, we had plans to meet for dinner the following week, a reconnection that felt both surprising and somehow inevitable, a bridge finally being built across decades of silence. The remainder of the afternoon brought even more unexpected developments. Mark Jones from Apex Investments called to discuss not just a potential contract for his company's supply chain needs, but the exciting possibility of Apex making a strategic investment in InnovateX technologies to fund our international expansion. Your handling of the Davis situation showed exactly the kind of principled leadership we look for in investment opportunities, he explained, his voice confident. Sometimes walking away from the wrong partnership is more valuable than securing a new one. By 500, I had instructed our legal team to prepare termination paperwork for the Davis contract, while simultaneously exploring 3 new potential client relationships that had emerged directly from connections made at the wedding. The irony wasn't lost on me. As I was preparing to leave for the day, my phone buzzed with a text from Liam, the first contact since our confrontation. Need to talk, in person, just you and me, tomorrow, lunch. I stared at the message for a long moment, weighing my response. Despite everything, he was still my brother, and while I wasn't seeking reconciliation, I was open to hearing what he had to say. Okay, 1:00 p.m., Luciano's on 5th, just us. His reply came immediately, thank you. As I drove home that evening, I reflected on how differently the day had unfolded than I had anticipated. Instead of damage control and revenue scrambling, We were fielding new opportunities and potentially stronger partnerships. The simple, powerful act of valuing myself had seemingly led others to value InnovateX more highly as well. Leo called as I was making dinner, wanting to check in after the eventful day. "So did Davis Enterprises implode without your software yet?" He teased a lightness in his voice. "Not yet, but Sarah White sounded pretty close to panic this morning," I admitted, stirring the pasta. "But the strangest thing happened today. Actually, several strange things." I told him about the calls from David Harris and Mark Jones, the unexpected heartwarming reconnection with Aunt Carol and Liam's surprising request to meet. It's like by standing up for myself, I accidentally tapped into some alternate universe where people actually respect boundaries and recognize value. I concluded a sense of wonder in my voice. "Or maybe," Leo suggested gently, his voice soft and thoughtful, "this is just what the world looks like when you stop accepting less than you deserve." His words stayed with me long after we hung up. Perhaps this wasn't an alternate universe at all. Perhaps it was simply the natural consequence of finally recognizing my own worth and expecting others to do the same. The email from Maxwell Davis arrived just before midnight, a formal request for a meeting to discuss mutually beneficial resolution options. I marked it for consideration, but didn't respond immediately. Whatever happened next would be on my terms, not his. For perhaps the first time in my professional life, I felt completely centered in my own value, neither seeking external validation nor fearing disapproval. It was a powerful feeling, this newfound certainty, and it had taken a wedding seating chart to finally bring it into sharp focus. For weeks after the wedding incident, the ripple effects continued to unfold. I sat across from Sarah White at a corner table in Luciano's, the same cozy restaurant where I'd met with Liam for our tentative reconciliation lunch. The difference in atmosphere was striking. While my conversation with Liam had been tense and emotionally fraught, this meeting with Sarah was relaxed, almost friendly, a quiet understanding passing between us. "The transition to the alternative system is proceeding, but it's not going well," Sarah admitted, stirring her coffee, a weary sigh escaping her lips. "Between us, Maxwell is regretting how everything played out. The replacement software is already 3 weeks behind schedule, and the developers can't seem to replicate some of InnovateX's key features." "I'm sorry to hear that," I replied, genuinely meaning it. "Your team worked hard on the implementation. It's unfortunate they have to start over." Sarah set down her spoon with purpose, her eyes meeting mine directly. "That's actually why I wanted to meet in person off the record. Maxwell is too proud to approach you directly again after your last meeting. But there's a growing consensus among the executive team that we made a serious mistake letting InnovateX go." The meeting she referred to had occurred 2 weeks after the wedding. Maxwell Davis had requested a private discussion at his office, presumably to attempt to salvage the contract. I had agreed, but made it crystal clear I wasn't there to negotiate terms. "Miss Reed." He had begun, his tone carefully calibrated between authority and conciliation. "I've reviewed the situation thoroughly, and I believe there's room for us to find a mutually beneficial path forward. Mr. Davis, I appreciate your time, but my decision is final. The contract termination paperwork has already been processed." "Perhaps we could discuss a new contract then," he suggested, a flicker of desperation in his eyes. "With more favorable terms for InnovateX? My technical team informs me that replacing your system will be considerably more difficult than anticipated. This isn't about terms or conditions," I had explained, my voice firm but calm. "It's about a fundamental lack of respect that was demonstrated not just by your daughter, but by my brother, and by extension your entire organization. I choose to work with partners who value what InnovateX brings to the table, not those who see us as servants to be seated in the kitchen." Maxwell had been silent for a long moment, his gaze fixed on me, a complex mixture of emotions crossing his face. "I understand your position better than you might think," he finally said, his voice surprisingly quiet. "I built Davis Enterprises from a single property my father left me. For years, I was dismissed by the established players in the industry, seated at back tables at events excluded from deals. It wasn't until I had enough leverage to demand respect that anything changed." "Then you should understand exactly why I can't continue our business relationship," I had replied, my voice steady, uncompromising. "You of all people should know that sometimes you have to walk away to maintain your integrity." Something shifted in his expression, then a grudging respect replacing his usual business-like facade. "Your brother doesn't deserve you," he said unexpectedly, the words cutting through the professional pretense. "And for what it's worth, my daughter's behavior was inexcusable. I've made that abundantly clear to both of them." That had been the end of our direct communication until now, with Sarah serving as an unofficial intermediary. "What exactly are you suggesting, Sarah?" I asked, returning to the present conversation. "A complete reset," she replied, leaning forward, her voice earnest. "New contract, new terms, new points of contact within the organization. Maxwell is even willing to issue a formal apology for the wedding incident in writing, acknowledging the unprofessional treatment you received." And Liam and Serena. Sarah winced slightly. That's more complicated. From what I understand, they're having some marital adjustments. Serena has been removed from any involvement in company affairs for the foreseeable future. This aligned with what Liam had shared during our lunch meeting. After the initial anger and accusations had subsided, he'd admitted that the wedding disaster had exposed serious issues in his new marriage. Serena was the one who changed the seating chart. He'd confessed, unable to meet my eyes. She's always been jealous of your success. Said it made me look bad if my sister was more accomplished than me. I knew it was wrong, but I didn't stop her. And that's supposed to make it better, I had asked, my voice tinged with the pain of decades. That you knew it was happening and chose not to intervene. No, he replied quietly, his voice hollow. It makes it worse. I've spent our entire adult lives trying to maintain this image of myself as the successful one, the one carrying on the Reed legacy. And when you started doing well, really well, I couldn't handle it. It was easier to diminish your accomplishments than to admit you had surpassed me. His honesty had been unexpected, and in its own way more meaningful than any apology could have been. We weren't magically repaired, the scars of years still too deep, but it was a starting point, an acknowledgement of the dysfunctional patterns that had shaped our relationship for decades. I need to think about it, I told Sarah now, carefully considering Maxwell's proposal. InnovateX had secured several new contracts in the past month. We weren't in the same precarious position we were when we first signed with Davis. I understand. Sarah nodded, her expression earnest. But I hope you'll consider it. Despite everything, our teams worked well together on the technical side. I promised to give her an answer within the week and walked her out to the street, where we parted with a handshake that felt more genuine than any interaction I'd had with Davis Enterprises before the wedding incident. Later that evening, Leo and I sat on my balcony, overlooking the glittering city, sharing a bottle of wine as I recounted the meeting with Sarah. So are you considering it? He asked, taking a thoughtful sip. Taking Davis back as a client. I swirled the wine into my glass, the amber liquid reflecting the city lights. Honestly, I'm not sure. On one hand, it would be good for InnovateX financially. On the other hand, there's something to be said for maintaining boundaries once they've been established. What does your team think? Tom believes we should consider it, but only with significant contractual protections and a substantial increase in fees. Brenda thinks we should pass and focus on the new clients who sought us out specifically because of our integrity. Leo nodded thoughtfully. And what does Victoria Reed, the woman who finally stopped accepting less than she deserves, think? I smiled at his framing of the question, a warmth spreading through me. She thinks that whatever decision I make needs to come from a place of strength, not insecurity or vindictiveness. If we re-engage with Davis, it should be because it truly serves InnovateX's best interests, not because I'm seeking validation or afraid to turn down a big client. That sounds like the CEO I've come to admire, Leo replied, raising his glass in a small, intimate toast. The month following the wedding had brought other profound changes as well. My reconnection with Aunt Carol had blossomed into a genuine friendship. Her perspective as another Reed woman who had fought for recognition in a male-dominated industry was invaluable, and her stories about my father's early years helped me understand his limitations in ways I never had before. More surprisingly, my parents had begun a tentative process of reflection and reconciliation. After the initial shock and anger over the Davis contract cancellation subsided, my mother had called her voice uncharacteristically subdued. I've been thinking about what you said at the wedding, she admitted, her voice fragile. About us never celebrating your accomplishments the way we did Liam's. I didn't want to believe it was true, but when I really looked back, you were right, and I'm sorry. It wasn't an immediate fix for decades of favoritism, but it was a start. An acknowledgement that perhaps they had failed to see me clearly for a very long time. The most profound changes, however, had occurred within me. The wedding incident, painful as it had been, had freed me from the exhausting, never-ending cycle of seeking approval from people determined not to give it. I no longer measured my success against Liam's yardstick, or sought validation from my parents' limited perspective. This new clarity extended beyond family relationships into all areas of my life. At InnovateX, I found myself making decisions with greater confidence, unencumbered by the self-doubt and second-guessing that had sometimes plagued me before. In my personal life, my relationship with Leo deepened as I brought a more authentic, unburdened version of myself to our connection. Perhaps most significantly, I had launched a mentorship program for women entrepreneurs in the tech industry, specifically those facing family or social obstacles to their success. The program, which I proudly named Visible, provided not just business guidance, but practical strategies for maintaining boundaries and self-worth in environments designed to diminish both. The first cohort of 20 women had already begun meeting weekly, their stories often painfully familiar echoes of my own experience. But in helping them navigate their challenges, I found unexpected healing for my own past wounds. You know what still amazes me, I said to Leo, as the city lights began twinkling below us, transforming the urban landscape into a canvas of shimmering jewels. How one moment of standing up for myself created this ripple effect that's still expanding. That's how change works, he replied, gently swirling his wine. It rarely happens in the big dramatic ways we imagine. It's usually one person making one decision that alters the trajectory just enough to create a new pattern. As the evening deepened around us, I thought about all the patterns that had been broken in the aftermath of that wedding day. Family patterns, business patterns, and most importantly, my own internal patterns of accepting less than I deserved. The text message from Liam arrived just as Leo and I were considering ordering takeout. Dad wants to have dinner next week, just the family. Says he has something important to discuss. Will you come? I showed the message to Leo. What do you think? I think you've earned the right to set the terms for any family engagement, he replied, his eyes warm and supportive. If you want to go. If you don't. Either way, you're doing it from a position of strength now, not obligation. I typed my response carefully. I'll be there, but I'm bringing Leo. He's important to me, and I want him there. Liam's reply came moments later. Of course, Mom and Dad will be glad to get to know him better. It wasn't perfect. The scars of decades of family dynamics wouldn't heal overnight. The Davis contract situation remained unresolved. Liam and Serena were navigating their new marriage with its revealed fractures. But for the first time, I felt like I was engaging with all of it on my own terms, neither controlled by others' expectations, nor defined by their limitations. In the end, the story of the wedding seating chart and the canceled contract wasn't really about either of those things. It was about finally recognizing that my value wasn't determined by where others placed me, but by where I chose to stand. A valuable lesson. This story powerfully illustrates the critical importance of self-worth and setting boundaries even with those closest to you. For Victoria, decades of being overlooked by her family led to a moment of profound realization. Her value was not dependent on their approval or recognition. By choosing to prioritize her own respect and professional integrity over family obligation, she not only asserted her worth, but also inadvertently opened doors to new, more respectful opportunities. The lesson here is clear. You teach people how to treat you. When you stand firm in your own value, you empower yourself, and paradoxically, you often gain the respect you deserve from others. Or at the very least, you free yourself from the burden of seeking it where it will never be given. What about you? Have you ever had to stand up to family members who didn't recognize your worth? Or walked away from a situation where you weren't being valued properly? Share your experience in the comments below. Sometimes the hardest boundaries to set are with the people closest to us. But as I learned, they can also be the most transformative. Don't forget to like this video if it resonated with you, subscribe for more stories about standing in your power, and share with someone who might need a reminder of their own worth today. Thank you for listening, and remember, you deserve a seat at the table, and you have the power to walk away if others don't recognize that truth.